Welcome, everybody. Today we will be discussing the chapter, The Man I Killed, and Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. We will be analyzing Tim O'Brien's use of literary devices and his motivations to not only humanize the character portrayed as the man killed, but develop the conflict regarding the true enemy of the Vietnam War.
Symbolism is an important tool in this chapter. It adds depth and contradictory emphasis to the story.
I think one of the interesting uses of symbolism in this character is the butterfly. There is this beautiful creature on a dead, torn-up body, and this contrast develops emphasis.
The butterfly shows that the war is not only blood, guts, and gore and explosions. There are some things in war that are beautiful. The butterfly is ironic and a contrast between light and dark in war, because it is a symbol of new life and beauty on a dead, rotting corpse. O'Brien humanizes the man in this chapter. He describes how afraid the man must be going into the war. In the presence of his father and uncles, he pretends to look forward to doing his patriotic duty, which is also a privilege. But at night he prays with his mother that the war might end soon. Beyond anything else, he was afraid of disgracing himself, therefore his family and village. This is a parallel back to the chapter The Rainy River, when O'Brien had been drafted to go to Vietnam. O'Brien was afraid but did not want anyone to know he was afraid. He knew that if he protested, it would just be shameful. I feared losing respect of my parents. I feared the law. I feared ridicule and sincere. O'Brien sees himself in this man again, demonstrating the underlying theme of guilt and shame.
O'Brien's use of repetition in this chapter is constant. A star-shaped hole, his jaw in his throat, and the man I killed. This repetition emphasizes the theme, which is O'Brien feeling guilty about killing this man he sees himself in, but has never known.
These phrases are repeated because you can tell that O'Brien is still haunted by what happened. These details keep appearing in his mind.
The repetition in this chapter also shows how difficult it is to escape from the bad memories, and also how difficult it is to get rid of the burdens war put on O'Brien. There are multiple types of repetition found in this chapter. Looking on pages 118 through 124, you will find all of the repetition used with the phrases.
The word choice used in The Man I Killed utilizes feminine words while describing the man O'Brien kills. The language is smooth and contrasts the war. Diction in this chapter, undamaged, clean, smooth, hairless, and dainty, bring childlike and non-violent aspects. With words smooth and hairless, it is emphasized that the man O'Brien killed is undeveloped and nearly a child, and is undamaged and clean. He was a boy forcefully brought to the war.
The childlike aspects and language portray that O'Brien feels guilty for killing someone who was unfit for the war and did not even portray the true enemy.
The language throughout the chapter tells us that the man was neither a communist or a fighter. The chapter states, he had bony legs, a narrow waist, long shapely fingers. This diction shows an innocence towards the man O'Brien kills, by stating, his right cheek was smooth and hairless, there was a butterfly on his chin. The man is described as childlike from the appearance shown. The dehumanization of the soldiers is emphasized in the chapter as a humanization of the man killed is developed as a coping mechanism for Tim O'Brien.
When analyzing the chapter The Man I Killed through a psychological lens, you can really develop insight on Tim O'Brien's ultimate motives of writing this chapter. He begins by characterizing the man as a citizen before a soldier on page 119, which presents the man killed as almost a soldier because he is a citizen, not because he should be or wanted to be. This characterization of him as a citizen and human before a soldier is a continuity throughout the elements of the chapter, as he is portrayed as a human with a love for mathematics, who likes books, and has a feeling of obligation to his family to be a soldier. Tim O'Brien essentially develops a fictional narrative about this character to humanize the man killed.
In a way, he is creating this narrative fictionally as a coping method to psychologically deal with the trauma and death of a man.
And this, is essentially what Tim O'Brien is doing throughout the entire novel. I think that the repetition used is the most influential tool to portray the narrator's psychological struggle, as it emphasizes the reoccurrence of characteristics of the now dead man in the narrator's head. The soldier's clear attempt at grasping what has happened is developed in the repetition. And the two psychological approaches to coping with death are portrayed through both Tim O'Brien and Kiowa. Tim O'Brien is intending to humanize the man who died and separate him from the body count of all the deaths in the Vietnam War. Another interesting aspect to analyze this chapter through is the social Marxist lens. The incentive of the American soldiers in the Vietnam War was to protect the United States from communism. By stating that the man who was killed was not a communist, the narrator identifies that the enemy didn't even possess the characteristics of why the war was being fought, in parallel to the American soldier with little incentive or understanding of why they were fighting.
And that concludes our podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed.
Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the
CJLS podcast.